like a blurry facing.
The black line sensor. Should we ask them?
Which person? I think the whole table's gonna be filled. I think like.
Oh, is that what it is?
I think the whole table's gonna be filled.
Should we get a camera on the other side too? We may have.
I don't like film you, film you. Yeah, I think we'll be okay. We'll be good. Do you think? I mean, here, go. Oh, thanks.
Okay.
Sorry.
Neil, your table, go for it. Okay.
So the intention is to jump into a dialogue here with the six of us regarding SLO's future. What's the vision we have for, you all have for SLO's future in terms of talent, future of work, etc. With that, we need a scribe to be willing to just take and capture our conversation, capture our dialogue here on these flip chart notes. And we need a table leader to just kind of continue to help.
Can you speak up?
Oh, sure, absolutely. Sorry, it's weird to speak loud when I'm talking to the six of you. We need a table leader to, just try to help draw out themes that we're hearing to make sure that we're capturing those and pulling those out. And a table host, but a table host really serves as a person that would stay at this table during a World Cafe. But this is a practice round, so we don't necessarily need that. Camille, did I leave anything out in terms of that?
No, I think that's it.
Okay. So who would like to serve as our scribe, as our
Who
note
has
taker?
good handwriting?
Here, excellent. Good job.
All right.
And I'm last.
And who would like to serve as our just table leader in terms of they're the ones, again, just listening, making sure that the key themes are being drawn out?
I like to serve in that.
Excellent, all right. So again, at this point, we just kind of to jump in terms of what's the vision for SLO's future. SLO, that's what everyone says, SLO, right?
We do.
Now you know you belong when you say slow.
All right.
So we just list out terms or ideas or?
I think ideas.
Okay.
If everyone could remember to speak up so we could all hear, that'd be great.
Well, I know one of the initiatives for Cal Poly that is probably all across the city is sustainability. And at Cal Poly, sustainability is a big issue, not just with the traditional aspect of our reusable bags and things like that, but also actually making sure we create programs and institutions that can kind of replicate themselves and feed themselves without having to be entirely dependent on a single person to run them. And so we're constantly working on trying to figure out how to make things that are sustainable without the same people in them all the time, so we don't wear people out.
So renewable.
Renewable resources, yeah, and which is on my mind because I'm part of a hiring process for the English department this morning at Cal Poly, and we're bringing people out to actually fill in that role. And that's one of the issues with the university is that we have a lot of really great people that do tons of work, but when they leave or they go on sabbatical or something else, we get these big holes because we put too much on those people. And I'm guessing that that's probably an issue across the rest of the city and with our government structure and social structure. So I think sustainability for me is a big one, just making sure that we create stuff that's sustainable and doesn't eat itself up.
And so within the city, we are seeing very much the same sort of thing. We call it succession planning, maybe, where we have consciously looked at how do you begin to craft a workforce that is self-promulgating. How do you bring in people and give them the depth of experience that people have had that are leaving, that have worked at the city for 30 years, when you don't have 30 years to bring them along? And how do you find talented workforce with within the confines of the employment that is a city government?
And I think part of that too is documenting like the sort of the institutional memory of a place. One of the things that's interesting to me is that, you know, our institution, which is supposed to be a polytechnic and a really technical place, we have no idea what we're doing a large part of the time out other parts of the campus. So we don't really talk to ourselves very well. This is a whole group of people that are paid to do nothing but stand around and pontificate and to students all the time, and yet they can't really talk to each other. And it's because we haven't figured out a really nice function for doing that. We don't even have something as effective as like Cal Poly Facebook for talking to ourselves as an institution. The students know more about them. Internally, we have not a really good system for that. And that seems like something that, you know, that's one of our issues, is that we get all of this memory invested in certain people, they leave, and all of that goes with them. And it's too much effort to document that as a single process. And one of the things I think we need to do as an institution is start figuring out a way to let the process document itself. And the way that a lot of our students document their lives and everything they do on Facebook and all these other things, we don't have a wiki, basically, for Cal Poly.
Oh, we were thinking of doing one of those for San Luis Obispo too. Davis has one, a Wiki Davis. Maybe some of you visited it sometime. We should. It's been one of my goals that we develop one of those for San Luis Obispo as well. Within the city, I think what Claire was talking about is really important too, and that is the need for maintaining an organizational culture with our employees that we've built up over many years now. It's not universal, but I think an example is when a parks worker, a maintenance worker, the park ranger actually knows enough about homeless issues to deal with those issues in the field and work with law enforcement, work with social services agencies to help not just resolve a problem of the regular park users being harassed or felt threatening, but what is that individual, or what is that cluster of people that's gathering there? Where are they coming from? How can we deal with that as a larger problem instead of just getting them, moving them someplace else? And it comes down to as well our utilities workers knowing not only where the sewer lines are, but also where our water lines are, and what are some of the issues involved in pavement management and all this. Cross-training people, making sure that they know that they are not just there to fill a slot to work their 8-hour shifts, but they're also especially when it comes time to deal with emergencies that as we will have, and we had one last night. We had a fatal fire in San Luis Obispo. So how do we get people attuned to the need to really look at things proactively at all levels of the organization? And that's a process of building a culture and creating a conversation with people. It goes well beyond collective bargaining and the adversarial process of our managers versus our unions. So I'm going to interrupt for a second for the benefit of so the trend. I'm trying to get a trend of needs. How would you verbalize that in a concise way? What are you seeing? How would you describe that? Well, the trend I envision, the trend I'd like to see is well, I think the words of this, the subtitle of this conference is a good one, talent integration. How can we get the people who are behavioral, cultural, and it's a matter of more than just morale. It's a matter of people trusting each other, trusting their people both alongside them and people they supervise and the people that are supervising them. And a lot of that has to do with us on the council as well, giving the kind of space that our employees need to create an initiative and bring it forward and not have their hands slapped and not being just turned down. I think that's one of the things I've noticed about our new, still call her our new city manager. It is, in fact, 2 years as of today that they've been on the job.
We kept track.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
Sorry, I was just gonna say, one of the things that I'm hearing come out of that, John, is really around, for just simply stated, connecting people to their role in the larger mission of the city, and making sure those dots are connected for them, to there's really no small parts. It's really, and they all make up, and are part of that larger mission for SLO. So, I really liked what you were, stating in terms of a need there. In terms of just a couple minutes left for this practice round, what are the themes that have just come out of anything that we haven't captured here that we've heard from this quick dialogue that we haven't captured in here?
well, I want to throw something out just briefly, and that is, in working with a lot of entrepreneurs, established companies and industries, what I find as a real trend to me is that the way you compete for marketplace or customers or clients has to shift because of the economy. The way your product mix has to shift and change to be able to now be successful. You have to look at new markets, perhaps, okay? You have to eliminate barriers to entry. And because of the advanced movement of technology, you can capitalize on some transit technology that are low cost to no cost to implement and change, shift in direction as an organization, as an individual. That the big picture, that's what I see, is the big trend in working with hundreds of people that I see. When clients come to me, I want to compete. Revenue is not the same as it used to be. The market has changed. How do I survive? And these are the big trends that I've seen. And this affects Cal Poly. This affects the state. And affects Cuesta. We're all wrestling with similar types of issues. How do we do more with less? That's basically it.
Well, and how do we do more with less while keeping that engagement?
Yeah.
People connected to the larger mission, because I think that the tendency within an organization the size of any governmental organization is to say, that's not my job.
Right.
As opposed to saying, this is an opportunity to reinvent the job and having the support from the top to be able to do that. And I think that it is these transition times that are critical for taking advantage of the tools, the new tools that are available that help that to happen, but that governments in particular are slow to adopt, a little bit wary of, and as a result tend to move more slowly into changing their cultures.
Do more
Or
with
in an
less.
emergency situation where the funding has absolutely stopped, to
Yes.
find different
Some way
ways
to do it.
fill
Yeah.
the resource.
And in that respect, San Luis Obispo is not affected because we have not ever had a redevelopment agency. But there are about 400 cities around the state that do, and many of them, their agencies are shuttered as of this week now because of budget cutbacks and shifts in the legislation. They are going to have to adapt to that changing environment too, looking for partnerships with maybe other large investors, corporations, and so on to come up with the financing that they used to be able to count on just through the property tax increment. That's just one example.
Okay.
Adaptation.
And I think too,
We
part
need
of
to
it.
hit timeout, I'm sorry. Just so we can move on from the practice round and get everybody engaged in the conversation. But for the purposes of this learning round here, at this point, the host of the table would stay here. We would move tables, and at the beginning of the next round, the host would actually just summarize what was the discussion, the key themes that came out of this first round of dialogue, and then move into the next thought-provoking question that would be poised to the group. So
That's very good.
So we move. Except you. You start.